Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lore and Crime, a podcast where we dive into the shadowy depths of history, where true crime and chilling events inspire dark fictional tales that will keep you up at night. In this episode, we travel back nearly 5,000 years to one of the oldest stories ever written, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Originating in ancient Mesopotamia, this tale was etched into clay tablets, where the Tigris and Euphrates once nourished mighty cities like Uruk. It is a story of kings, beast, friendship, and grief. At its heart stands Gilgamesh, a legendary king who defied the gods, loved fiercely, and raged against the limits of mortality. This adaptation is told in verse, honoring the poetic tradition of the original text. In ancient times, stories like this were spoken aloud, passed from lips to ears, each rhythm and rhyme a heartbeat. Let the words guide you through shadowed forests and sunless seas, where even a godlike king must learn what it means to be human. Before the dust, before the shade, before the debts that must be paid, I ruled a city walled in pride, and none could stand against my stride. Behold Uruk, with walls so wide, they hold the stars where gods reside. Its gates are bronze, its towers flame, each brick engraved with king's end name. The markets buzz with spice and lore, where gold from every shore still pour. A city carved from dust and light, the crown of men, the gods' delight. The sons of Uruk feared my tread, I took their brides, consumed their bread. My word was law, my wrath was swift, the gods themselves called me a rift. The prayers rose up like smoke and ash, to halt my hand, to dull my lash. And so the gods in secret womb prepared a beast within the gloom. Not born of throne or temple floor, he rose from mud, from forest lore. With hair like grass and eyes like flame, Enkidu was the wild one's name. This wild man roamed through thorn and dune, a beast beneath the hunter's moon. He drank with deer, he fought the bear. No ward, no law, no need to care. The hunters feared his strength, his eyes. They saw in him old nature's rise. So to the temple they did flee, and prayed, "O gods, set Uruk free." Then Shamash heard and spoke with fire, "Send woman, flesh, and heart's desire. Not blade nor chain shall bend him low, but love shall teach the beast to know." So came the priestess, veiled and proud. Her step was soft, her scent a shroud. A temple girl, with gaze like sun, was sent to tame him, one by one. Her kiss, her song, her human grace unmade the wildness from his face. She taught him names for wind and tree. She sang, "You are, and so is she." For days they lay in warm embrace, until he rose with altered pace. The beast now tamed, they knew, they saw, that man had touched the hand of law. I ruled with strength, unchecked, untamed, no bride unclaimed, no pride unnamed. The gods had shaped me half divine, and all of Uruk bowed to mine. But then he came, like storm unbound. His fists were stone, his feet shook ground. A wild man clothed in dust and mane, who bore no rank, but knew no chain. He barred my path, defied my right, and so we clashed in temple light. He tore the wall, we cracked the gate. We fought like wolves, defying fate. We fought for days, no breath, no break. The palace shook, the towers quaked. I struck his jaw, he broke my wrist. Our blows like mountains that had kissed. But in that sweat, that blood-soaked dance, I saw not foe, but equal stance. And when we fell, the crowd afraid, I laughed and said, "Let peace be made." He grinned like lions do at dusk, and so we walked through ash and musk. No longer king and beast alone, but two carved from flame and stone. The night we sat on palace stone, while wind-like whispers passed alone. The moon hung high, the city slept, and still I dreamt while Enkidu wept. "Come with me, friend," I said, "let's go, beyond these walls where great trees grow. Humbaba guards the forest deep, but glory waits where others sleep." He frowned. "You seek a beast of flame, for what? A song, eternal name? I've roamed those woods, I've heard the cries, the ground there moans, the branches spy." "Then all the more," I said, "we ride. What is a life if lived to hide? If gods have carved a death for me, I'll carve my tale in cedar tree." He looked away, and stars turned pale, but still he stood and did not fail. If death must come, then let it find us side by side with open mind. The blacksmith's forge was fierce and red, as molten fate was hammered fed. My axe was cast from sacred ore, my shield from stars that fell before. The priests came forth with sacred bread, and poured out wine for spirits dead. To Shamash, Lord of light and truth, we cried, "O guide these hearts of youth." The seers cast bones, the omens danced, the stars were red, the incense chanced. They burned the lamb, they bathed our skin, and sang of where the gods begin. O men who rise with lion's might, tread soft where gods conceal their right. But if your souls are firm and just, then walk through shadow, blade in trust. Enkidu wept, the wild grew still. I touched the wall, the throne, the hill. "Farewell," I said, "O city flame. I go to earn an ageless name." The streets were lined with flame as men and women spoke our name. The elders came with hands held high, and children watched with wondering eye. The gates were wide, the drums beat slow, as if the walls themselves said go. My mother wept, her voice a thread, "Bring not just glory, but your head." Enkidu bowed to sky and street, the dust swirling soft beneath his feet. "O gods," he whispered, "keep us brave, or carve our story on the grave." With axe and shield and fire-born vow, we turned from gold to branches now. The city dimmed behind our pace, and silence claimed the empty space. We sought the woods the gods had sealed, where cedar grew and fate was healed. No common grove with bird and vine, but trees that drank from roots divine. The trunks were thick as temple spires, their scent could spark prophetic fires. Each leaf a scroll, each branch a breath, each shadow whispered love or death. The priests in fear had bowed their heads. "No man returns," was all they said. "These woods are ruled by ancient wrath, and Humbaba blocks the hunter's path." His name was thunder, dusk and smoke. His voice could make a planet choke. His eyes were stars that bled with heat. His feet turned soil to scorch the defeat. "This is forbidden," warned the wise. "The gods will watch with jealous eyes." But Enkidu, born from fur and rain, just smiled and shouldered off the chain. "We were not shaped to crawl or kneel. Let heaven mark what men can feel." His heart beat loud as wild as flame, and I too burned to make a name. So through the groves of myth we strode, with sharpened blade and oath and code. Each step we took made spirits groan. The forest knew we came alone. And then he came, Humbaba, draped in shifting mist, with tusked jaws slick with vengeance hissed. His breath was wrought, his gaze a chain. His words were thorns, his will was pain. "You dare to strike where gods have sworn? Then bleed, O kings, regret you are born." The sky went black, the streets bent low, but we stood fast through wind and woe. My axe sang sharp, it cleaved the gloom. Enkidu danced, a deathly bloom. We circled, struck, and we cried and bled, while ghostly roots pulled at the dead. His roars could split the mountain's knee, but side by side we would not flee. He towered high, but we struck true. and down he fell, the sky torn blue. His blood ran dark through sacred sod, and we had slain the wrath of God. Yet silence followed, not applause. The forest grieved beneath its laws. The wind grew cold, the crows took flight, and I could feel the shift of right. For glory feeds on sacred bone, and crowns are cast in cries alone. We carved our names in cedar bark, but left behind a world gone dark. We marched through Uruk, blood still fresh, with cedar scent upon our flesh. Our blades were nicked, our arms were sore, but oh, the thunder from the floor. They lined the streets in waves of gold, with petals thrown and tales retold. The children danced, the elders wept, the scribes all rushed, the potters prepped. They sang of Humbaba's final breath, of how we laughed in face of death. They carved us high on temple walls, two giants striding fate's great halls. The priests brought wine, the bakers bread, the sick rose up right from their bed. The king had crushed the sacred beast, and now began an endless feast. But joy like flame can swell and blind, and ash still waits for those who climb. For as the sun sets red and wide, I felt a stirring deep inside. My hands once fist now trembled slow, my name rang loud, yet felt hollow. I'd faced the gods and struck them low, what else was left for me to know? The stars looked down with wary grace, the heavens frowned behind their face. The council stirred, the gods took note. These men grow bold, on power they dote. They crossed the line we drew in sand, they raised the axe with mortal hand. One born of clay, one born of wild, and yet they scorn what we have styled. The gods debated wrath and right, while we slept beneath the night. But shadows gathered thick and slow, preparing depths we'd soon bestow. And then she came, in moonlight thread, her crown of stars upon her head. The goddess stirred with longing fire, the queen of wrath, of dream, desire. She watched me from her garden throne and whispered, "You should not die alone." But glory swells the heart too much, and soon I'd feel her venomous touch. Ishtar came to me with jewel hands, with hips that swayed like fertile lands. "Come," she said, "O king divine, and let your seed mix fast with mine." Her lips were red, her voice like wine, but venom ran beneath the line. For I had heard of all her dead, the men who'd shared her gilded bed. You loved the shepherd till he cried, you broke the lion's back with pride. You took the bird and clipped its wing, you made the stallion curse the spring. She snarled like fire beneath her jewels, you dare reject the queen of fools? "I do," I said, "and more than that, you crave what kills, you wear the rat." Her scream split the sky, her wrath unfurled, she begged the gods to wreck my world. And so they did, with horns and rain, the bull of heaven stomped the plain. The bull tore fields, it gored the land, with a bleeding sky and broken sand. It hooves struck wells till waters bled, it crushed the flocks, it filled with dread. It roared and dust rose like a tomb. It split the earth, it choked the bloom. Its horns were moons, its eyes were flame, it trampled mothers, laughed at shame. No spear could wound, no sword could bite, the bull was vengeance crowned in night. But Enkidu stood tall and proud, he faced it firm, he roared aloud. "You dare the son of flesh and fire? Then come and taste our full desire." He leapt and grabbed its twisted horn, and cursed the hour it was born. I seized my axe, it spined my aim, we fought like gods without a name. It thrashed and screamed, it shook the night, but we would not let glory die. With one last strike, through bone and breath, we laid the beast in noble death. Its blood ran black through temple floors, its hide was hung from Uruk's doors. And though we smiled and though we cheered, the air had changed, the gods had leered. The gods do not forget their scars, they rule with envy from the stars. They whispered down through fevered air, let one of them now pay the fare. Great Enkidu was marked that night, he shook and moaned and feared the light. The gods, he wept, they twist the game, they gift us glory, then shame. Enkidu fell, a burning coal, the sickness ate his heart, his soul. He cursed the gods, the wind, the ground, and then he left without a sound. I held him close, I prayed, I swore. I offered temples, blood, and more. But none would heed the king's last plea. They chose to make a ghost of me. For when he died, I died as well, a half-man bound inside a shell. His voice would haunt my waking breath, a drum that marched me into death. I laid him down in desert shade, where not even death could fully fade. I washed his limbs with scented brine, my brother gone, no god, no sign. Enkidu's eyes, once wild and clear, now blank as moons too far to steer. His voice was still, his chest was bare, and all the world grew grim and spare. I touched his hand, it felt like clay, and thus I turned and walked away. Not back to court nor temple gate, but down the path the lost call fate. I tore my hair, I wailed, I ran. I raged against the fate of man, and so began my endless flight to steal back life, to challenge night. They call me the king who did not die, but I have died many times, in battle, in dreams, in the long silence that followed Enkidu's last breath. And now I wonder, was it truly him who died, or was it me? They call me king who will not die, but I have perished by and by. Not pierced by sword or beastly claw, but by grief no god foresaw. It was not death that tore me down, but memory dressed in a crown. A whisper, rough and soft and near, a voice I lost, yet still I hear. At first he lingered in my dreams, a flicker in Euphrates streams, a shadow cast across the grain, a second echo in my brain. I woke with soil in my breath, the taste of forests, life and death. And though my bed was carved in gold, my limbs remembered something old. My mother, Ninsun, wise and grave, burned herbs to send him to the grave. "This is your grief," she said, "no ghost," but she had not become his host. I ran through night with lion's pace, I saw the world with Enkidu's face. I was myself and yet not quite, a twin soul walking through the night. My hands once ruled, my tongue gave laws. My blade was swift, it knew no pause. But now they trembled at the page, a scribble in a cage of rage. I spoke in tones that were not mine, a growl that echoed from my spine. The temples reek, I once declared, let's hunt where something real is bared. The priest looked up and grabbed his chest, as if some demon stirred his rest. But I just smiled with feral grin, for Enkidu had stirred within. I fled the city, dropped the crown, let dust and sweat wear my robes down. The reeds became my bed, my keep, and in their rustle he would creep. I lived as he once did before, a beast outside the city's door. I walked in step with fox and bird, and in their silence I still heard the cry he gave when first he stood, a man remade from clay and wood. I wore his thoughts, his dream, his taste, ourselves by time no longer laced. I wandered out past maps and names, through haunted caves and godless flames. I shaved my head, I tore my robe, I sought the ones beyond the globes. There must be more, I cried to the wind, than warm and ash and bone-split rind. For what is kingship, strength, and lore, if love is lost forevermore? The world gave back no gentle song, just silence, wide and grey and long. And in that void, I felt him stir, a breath behind me, soft and slur. Not gone, not far, but folded in, beneath my skin, beneath my sin. I walked alone, or so I trust, but footprints doubled in the dust. I wandered far with hollow chest, through sunless plains with grief unblessed. Enkidu's ghost still trailed my breath, and all I feared was silence, death. I crossed the land no king had known, where scorpions guard the mountain's bone. Through Mashu's gate, where shadows steep, I walked 12 leagues without a sleep. Then came a hut near ocean's rim, a woman sat with eyes grown dim. Siduri, keeper of vine, who served the gods fermented wine. Why do you wear that grieving face? Your cheeks are torn, your steps lack grace. She poured me drink, she warmed my hands. You chase what no man understands. But still I begged there must be more. My friend lies cold, my soul is sore. Must all things die and turn to air? I'll brave the gods, I do not care. She sighed and pointed toward the tide. Then find the boatman, let him guide. Urshanabi knows the watery miles, but first he'll test you with his trials. I found him near the whispering reeds, a face like stone, a well like seeds. He made me cut 100 poles, for in waters cursed with dead men's souls, no sail would work, no oar would turn, the waves were thick with God's concern. He watched me strain, my hands all torn, until the poles were snapped and worn. I reached the shore where skies stand still. There stood a man immortal by God's will, Utnapishtim, in skin like dust, who'd lived beyond the mortal crust. Utnapishtim, flood-born shade, whose flesh with ancient fire was made. He stared with eyes like storm and mud, his breath still held the weight of the flood. And when I asked him what I am, he named me like a priest in sham. You are not one, you are now two, the beast and king are both in you. The line is blurred, the thread is torn, you wear both masks that once were worn. Then how, I begged, can I be free? Return, he said, to destiny. You fade, you die, as all men must, for gods and kings are made of dust. He told me tales of life and grief, of flowers blooming sharp and brief. He offered me a bitter root, a plant that whispered of the fruit. But while I bathed in dreams too long, a serpent came, both sleek and strong. It stole the herb, it shed its skin, and left me older than I'd been. No youth was mine, no death undone, just sky and ash and setting sun. I wept not loud, but deep and low, for all the truths I'd come to know. Uruk stood tall, its bricks unchanged, but I inside was rearranged. My people bowed, my hounds all barked, but none saw how my soul was marked. I climbed the wall I once had raised, and from its peak below I gazed. In there I swear he walked the square, alive with sun upon his hair. A smile that turned the wheel of time, a gaze that knew not wrought no crime. He looked as if he'd never bled, but I was watching from the dead. I wandered back to Uruk's gate, my crown more rusted now than great. But as I climbed the western tower, I saw my city's ancient power. The walls were wide, the bricks still red, the prayers of children overheard. The gardens bloomed, the markets sang, despite the gods the hammer rang. I built this place from stone and bone, from grief and love and dust alone. And though I fade like summer's flame, my city stands, it speaks my name. Not in the stars or skies above, but in each hand that shapes with love, that carves and dreams, that learns and tries, there lives a thing that never dies. I am not one, I never was, the gods stitched me with crooked laws, one part divine, one part of clay, and now one part that walked away. But Enkidu, though flesh has fled, still walks beside me, still undead. He is my voice, my ghost, my kin, the fate through which I once walked in. I see the world through twin-born eyes. I speak in truths, I speak in lies. I am the lion, I am the lamb. I am the echo, I am the dam. And when at last I draw my breath and slip beneath the weight of death, do not place stone nor burn with flame, for both of us will leave no name. Just footprints fading into the dust. Two kings who broke, two kings who must walk past the gates beyond the wall, where none return and gods don't call. And so ends the tale of Gilgamesh, king, seeker, mourner, man. He searched for eternal life, only to find that legacy lives not in gods or dreams, but in what we build and who we remember. The ruins of the city of Uruk still echo with his name. If this story stirred something in you, let me know. Leave a rating or a review. Every voice helps keep these ancient stories alive. And until next time, for another episode pulled from the depths of history.